And so it's Sunday, everybody, just in case we didn't know. It's Sunday and we're here. It's a great, good day, Sunday. And we're looking at that wonderful chapter in Eric Butterworth's book, Life is for Living. And it's the chapter that's on page 64. And I think the heading of that one is Challenges and Handicaps. Well, we know what we know about challenges and handicaps, or do we? So he opens it up and he says in the very first line, he invites us to remember that it is the Father's great delight to give us the kingdom. The Father's great delight to give us the kingdom. Well, what does that mean to us? We could state it this way. It is life's deep desire that each and every one of us, without exception, would move into the awareness of pure conscious living. It is life's desire that you and I become consciously conscious, and that's the kingdom. And that is why we can understand it more fully what Jesus said when he said the kingdom is within you. Well, of course, the opportunity to be fully clear and conscious is within us. It's within us. And this is a wonderful thing to know, to ponder, and to experience and to express. And that's what we're moving along into. Now, you and I may think, or have thought in the past, that this was only for the few holy ones, the few wise ones, the few sages, the few enlightened ones, because after all, we're just ordinary everyday folk. So that wouldn't mean us, you see. That would be the Gandhis, and that would be the Buddhas, and that would be the Jesus, and that would be all these people that we call extraordinary and exceptional and different and separate and apart from us. We folk, ordinary, everyday people. And so if we're still thinking that, we are sorely mistaken, and we are thinking amiss, because that invitation, that reminder, was for every single person on this planet, regardless, good, bad, and indifferent. Everyone was given the same opportunity and has within him herself amazing grace. There is a phenomenal light within each and every one of us that cannot even be dimmed, for less put out. It cannot be. Now, some of us are totally unconscious to it, like the Hitlers of the world and so on. But that doesn't mean it's not there. It's there. The potential is there. And at any moment, any one of us could wake up to it and become that pure conscious awareness that is spoken of by the sages of the past and the present. And so the invitation is there for you and for me today to arise, to wake up, and to get with it. To get with the truth of who you are and what you are and whose you are. And so we must not see ourselves as ordinary everyday people, average people. I don't know what that is. There's no such thing as an average person. There's no such thing as two people who are the same. We are unique, individualized expression of life itself, for whatever good reason. But that's the way it is. That is the way it is, and that's what we're celebrating here today. So, think about this. You are in a plane, or on a plane, and part of a plane, in this world, this three-dimensional world, that is a process of unfoldment. You're not going to get out of that. That's our task. Simply unfold. Become more spiritually skilled. Spiritual maturation is why we're here, for that. And the way we do it is through whatever shows up in our lives, whether we want to call them obstacles, we want to call them handicaps, we want to call them challenges, whatever you want to call them, you can call them. I just call it life showing up however it chooses to show up. And as far as challenges are concerned, they can be seen as a very good thing, as a wonderful thing, because without them, you and I are not going to grow a whit, not a tiny, eensy-weensy, teeny bit, without these things called challenges. And you and I can see them as part of the great game of life, and get into the game and enjoy playing the game, and know I'm in it to win it, as all the TV shows say. Oh, he's in it to win it. She's in it to win it. I say we're in life to live it. That's what I like to say. I'm in it to live it. whatever it is, I'm in it to live it. And not see these challenges as handicaps, for heaven's sakes, and for things that are going to make us feel like that we're just pawns on a chessboard being pushed around all over the place without any say ourselves, and feeling that sense of helplessness and hopelessness and victimhood. That's not why we're here. Never were we meant to be here for any of that. We're here to play the game of life, to play it wisely and well, and to win. We are here to win because we were created winners. That's why we're here. So any of these handicaps that we might name as such are seeds, have within them seeds of opportunity, seeds of growth, seeds of a great harvest, seeds of infinite possibility that you and I can move through and grow through and learn from and produce a great harvest. That's what handicaps, problems, situations, circumstances are to us as truth students. And so we look to the past, we look to the present, and we see all of those ordinary, average, everyday people who have succeeded beyond any imagining of theirs and have made a huge impact on life and living. In the past, Demosthenes, who was a famous, the world-renowned, one and only, greatest of all orators on the plane at that time, started out his public life on the public stage and public speaking being laughed off the stage. But he always came back, and he always came back, and he always came back. And eventually people began to listen to him. And what they heard was wondrous, and what they heard was amazing, and what they heard was informative to the point of causing growth to occur. And what was his handicap? Believe it or not, he was a stutterer. Can you imagine somebody waking up one day with a stutter saying, I am going to be a great worldwide orator. I'm going to make it in the field of public speaking. And he did that because it was his purpose. And he was fired by his purpose. That's what he was called to be. He didn't lie down under and say, I can't do this, because I can't speak right. I'm a stutterer and I get just all mixed up and so on and so forth. No, he didn't. He just thought to himself, this is what I'm called to. However it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And he allowed his handicap, so to speak, to be the driving force in his life. And it worked for him. Norman Vincent Peale, I didn't know until recently, was besotted with a sense of insecurity all of his life. Insufficiency. He felt insufficient. And when he first started public speaking, he said his voice was quivering and his knees were knocking, and it was very, very challenging and hard. But he kept doing it and kept showing up and kept doing it. But he said it was always a little challenging for him, no matter when, even toward the end of his days. But again, he said he used that challenge in his life to be the driving force in his life and to pit himself against himself or with himself to succeed. And he did. Napoleon, for heaven's sakes, Napoleon. He was besotted by the fact of his great deep insecurity because he had very humble parentage. Didn't suit him at all. He was born into deep poverty. Didn't suit him at all. He was short in stature. Didn't suit him at all. And he fought tooth and nail to be accepted into the military academy, and he barely got in, squeaked in. And let me tell you, he was no genius either. Out of a class of 65, he came in 46th. And yet, those things in his life that seemed handicaps were used as the driving force so that it would fire up the individual to overcome. Why is that so in these individuals? Because they knew that was their purpose. They knew their purpose, and they knew it was their purpose, and so they forged ahead. They were in it to win it. They were playing the game of life. They were engaged. They were present to it, and they succeeded. And then in our own land, for heaven's sakes, we had Lincoln with his challenges. We had Benjamin Franklin with his. They were both born into poverty situations too. And if they sat back and thought, I can't do it because I'm poor and I won't be able to get the opportunities and blah, 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 we never would have had these individuals contribute the way they did to life and living. And then, of course, Roosevelt, who was crippled. What a handicap was that, as people understood it in his day. And he overcame. Why? Because he knew it was his purpose to do and to be what he did and became and was. Helen Keller, for heaven's sakes, my goodness me. Look at our present day David Hawkins, a man born who couldn't move, couldn't speak. The voice he uses is an artificial voice, and so on. These people didn't lie down under their handicaps. They knew there was a fire within them, a purpose within them, and they had to fulfill it. And they used all of those handicaps as the driving force in their lives to get them to succeed and achieve, and they did. Look at Nelson Mandela. Look at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Look at Gandhi. Look at the handicaps that were placed upon them because of the culture from which they came. The culture from which they came. And I was sharing with the folk on Wednesday some of the things that, how some of the ways Gandhi responded to the bias and the prejudice and the bigotry that he encountered when he was in South Africa and at a very, very difficult time. He had a professor that was really out to get him. He had a professor that couldn't stand him. He had a professor that just didn't like anything about Mr. Gandhi. And he tried to get to him in every possible way. And one day Gandhi comes into the refectory, and there's a place beside the professor to sit, and he sits down. And the professor looks at him and he says, Mr. Gandhi, he said, pigs and birds don't usually dine together. And Gandhi smiled at him, looked at him, picked up his tray and said, well, don't worry about it, Professor, I'm just going to fly away. Gracefully, sovereignly responded. At another time, his professor was out to get him. He tried to get him with regard to failing him. He couldn't fail him because his papers were perfection. So one day, in spite, he just wrote idiot right across it. And later Gandhi came up and he said, you know, Professor, he said, thank you for signing my paper, but you didn't give me a grade. And the third one incident in his life with the same professor, and this is just with one man. He was trying to test him as, you know, the Pharisees and the publicans tried to test Jesus, and anybody who's of a good mind is tested. He said to him, Mr. Gandhi, if I had a pile of money and wisdom here before you, which would you choose? And without hesitation, Gandhi said, I'd choose the pile of money, of course. He said, I would have chosen the wisdom. He said, yes, we tend to choose what we don't have. Wouldn't you love to be able to meet life like that? Wouldn't you love to have that sovereignty of being, that grace and that presence that flows up out of knowing who you are and what you are and whose you are? Wouldn't you love to have that? Wouldn't you? Well, you have. You just have to find it and use it. Get in there and get it and use it. Yes, handicaps don't have to be anything other than opportunities to grow and expand and deepen. And every time any one of us who appears to have a handicap does that, we are teaching so much to everybody else around us. And we're showing, and let me tell you, if you want to play the game of a handicap, it's not just for him and her. Everybody could say that, in a way, there's a handicap there for me to overcome. A challenge, a problem, whatever you want to call it. We call them projects here. We just have projects. We don't have problems. We have projects to work on. But there is that mindset that gets us into that thinking and that feeling of helplessness and hopelessness that flows out of inertia when you get into it. And who am I to think that it could be any different? Who am I to think that I could have a great, good life? Who are you not to think it? Who are you not to think it? It's all to do with a mindset and a mood set and an energy set and a dynamic that either grows us or stunts us. So the choice today for you and for me is to decide which side do we come down on. Are we the players in the game, or are we the pawns in the game? Now, it's up to you and up to me to choose which one we want to be, a pawn or a player. I don't want to be a pawn pushed around on any board, and I know you don't either. I want to be a player in my game, and I want to be engaged, and I want it to be a dynamic, and I want it to be an energetic, and I want it to be something vital, and I want it to be something alive, and I want to live my life in aliveness, not half asleep or not half dead or whatever, in aliveness. And that's the invitation extended here today. Now, there is this weird notion that began way back when with our early ancestors, that the will of God for us was that we should be burdened, and that we should suffer, and that we should learn from our burdens and learn from our sufferings to endure, and that we should offer it up and suffer in silence and then have glory in heaven. That is a nonsense. That was never the will of God, is the will of God, never will be the will of God. That was an attempt of people way back when, in those times when they were trying to make sense of why everything was, and they didn't have the knowledge, and they didn't have the science, and they didn't have all of the information that is available to us today to go on. They were doing the best they could with what they had. That is a capricious God, and there's no such thing as a capricious God. No such thing. God could not be God and be capricious or be in any way desirous of anybody's anything except good. It is the Father's deep, great delight, desire that you should have the kingdom and its fullness and all of its gifts. That is the only desire of spirit. That is the divine design. It's for good and for only good. But that consciousness is living deep within us. It is a collective consciousness that's deep in our ancestral roots and has been passed on from generation to generation to generation, which causes us to live in confusion at best and fear at the other end of that, to be afraid of ourselves, afraid that we are indeed what we think we are. We are afraid that we are what we think we are, less than, insufficient, insecure, not enough. Now that's a common denominator amongst us all, and we are asked to move up and out and beyond of that. And it doesn't matter where you are at the moment, good, bad, or indifferent. The opportunity is now given to each and every one of us to turn that around, to change that around, and to start thinking about our lives differently. To make the decision today to live our lives from a sense of fullness instead of emptiness. To live our lives from a sense of well-being instead of lack thereof. To live our lives in a sense of plenty instead of its opposite. To live our lives with a sense of life is on my side, all is well, and I'm choosing now to embark upon the next step of my journey into self-realization, into self-discovery. And I'm going to do it with a hop and a skip and a jump. I'm going to do it knowing that more than me is on the journey, but I am accompanied, and that I am accompanied by life itself. My source itself, the creator itself, is accompanying me every step of the way. And it is mine to overcome anything that appears to be an obstacle on the path. Because I can. because I have it within me to do so, because I have that infinite, intelligent, intuitive wisdom within me that guides me through it all. But on the journey, I have to take plenty of food with me, plenty of it. And the food I take with me on this journey is the food of faith. I must keep eating the food of faith in order to sustain my commitment to myself, to return back home to the greatness that is within me, to turn back home to the light that awaits me in my illumination, to return back home to the wholeness and the fullness and the completeness that is already present to me because it's within me. I just have to wake up. I just have to wake up. And how am I going to do that? I'm certainly not going to do it operating at the same mindset and the same mood set that I've been operating on until now. I have to understand that the egoic mind of me is in service to the divine mind in me, and it's not the other way round. And that the egoic aspect of myself is not all of myself by any manner or means. Indeed, it is the small part of me. The truth of my being is my divine essence, is my divine self. I am an aspect of spirit, so that's my truth. And that's what I need to come from in my thinking, and come from in my feeling, and come from in my doing, if I'm going to become sovereign like all the ones that succeeded and achieved this state before us and right up until now. Anyone has the same opportunity as Gandhi had. Anyone has the same opportunity as Buddha had. Anyone has the same opportunity as Jesus of Nazareth had. You can do these things, and greater things than these can you do, is what the great master teacher said. You too can do what I have done. You too. But to do that, you must contact the life of the Father, the life of the Spirit within you, and unify with it. And then all things are possible. Seek first the kingdom of consciousness within you, and then all things else will be added unto you. That's how we do it. For that to happen, I must keep monkey mind out of the picture. I must keep monkey mind with all its rantings and ravings and kvetching and all the rest of it quiet. I must give it a quiet time to do that, to be still, to know, to listen, to feel, to be aware, to get a sense of. And I can only do that in stillness. In stillness and in quiet shall your comfort, your courage be, we are told. And that's no easy task, but it's doable. It's doable. So what you and I to begin with can do is to recommit to ourselves today, to be on the journey consciously awake and alert, and to take off on this new phase of the journey with an open mind and an open heart and a willing spirit as we move along the way, to dance our way down the road of life, to be in celebration as we go along the road of life, to be in praise and gratitude and awe as we go along the road of life, to be caught up in wonder as we live our lives, because there's so much to wonder about. There is just so much awe and wonder available to us for those of us who can see. But to do that, I have to stop and look. I can't always be like this. That's very, very seductive. It's very seductive, it's very addictive, and we all get caught up in it to some degree, but I'm not going to self-realizing doing this, I can tell you that. And no book is going to do it for me. No group is going to do it for me. No guru is going to do it for me. The only thing that's going to do it for me is a full heart and an open mind and a receiving spirit. That's what does it for me. There's nothing else can. And you have that mind, you have that heart, you have that spirit. So open it up. Open it up. Open it all up, you know. Let your good self out. Be open. Be an open vessel, not a closed one. And that's the problem. Most of us are closed vessels. You can't put anything into a closed vessel. You have to open up something to put something into it. And that's the call today. Be on your path. And your path is simply your purpose. Be on your purpose. Position yourself to succeed where you know you are called, to succeed where you know lies your desire and intent. And then see if life won't just jump on the bandwagon and support you with a hooping and a hollering and a rah, 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 and be your cheerleader, pumps and all those wonderful pumpy things and everything. But on steroids. Because that's how it is with life. Life is big, it's not small. And life has a big expression by means of you. Wants to live its big expression by means of you if you'd only cooperate. So I am known for each and every one that instead of thinking at the level that we have been thinking about being an ordinary, average, everyday person, no more of that, because you're no such thing. You are light, you are life, you are love, you are peace, you are beauty, you are power, you are joy, you are goodness, and you are kindness, and you are compassion, and you are the beautiful image and likeness of your Creator. And that's all you are. You are nothing less than that. And you couldn't be any more than that, because that's the fullness of everything, and it's you. So join me this week in pondering these things and saying yes to the life that wants to live out loud by means of you. Are you going to do it? Yes. And so it is.
We invite you to experience Dr. Moira in person on Sundays. Our services are at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., and childcare is available. Please join us. If you enjoy these messages and would like to make a donation to our center, please visit our website at redondocsl.org. Thank you for your support of this ministry.